Morning, girls. Today and for the next 2 weeks, we're going to practice doing some budgeting questions from the Ordinary Level Accounting Leaving Cert course. Now, some of you have already done this. We'd started them in school, but some of you have not. So I'd like us all to go over these again. And if you've already done it, it's no harm to get more practice in. And if you haven't done it before, or whether you have or you haven't, please ask plenty of questions through Edmodo if you would like to. Okay, so here's what the question looks like for a start. It's a budgeting question. It comes up as question 9 on the Ordinary Level exam paper. We did a little bit of flexible budgeting already. This, even though it just says budgeting on top, it's normally known as production budgeting. Okay, so they give you a bit of information here about two products that a company intends to make, and because it's a budgeting question, what they want us to do is to forecast figures for the production of these two products. So it's looking to the future, it's forecasting, as opposed to the usual financial accounting way where we're writing down information about something that has happened in the past. So this is management accounting, looking to the future and forecasting. So just have a quick look at what you're required to do. There are 5 parts. It's prepare a sales budget, production budget, material usage budget, material purchases budget, and a labour budget. So we'll try and do a few of these parts in this video for a start. So to begin with, the sales budget in units and in euros. So just to explain what that means, it's a budget, again, it's a forecast, which is guessing, if you like, forecasting or guessing how much sales you're going to do in units, which means how many items you're going to sell. So in this question, it will be how many gold stars you'll sell and how many silver stars you'll sell. That's in units. And then a sales budget in euro is, well, for instance, if you were selling 5 gold stars and they were each being sold for 80 euros, then in euros, your sales budget would be saying 5/8 of 40. You'd have 400 euros worth of sales of gold star. Okay, so one tells you how many items, the other one tells you the amount of the value of the sales in euros. Okay, so let's start with that anyway. So here's what it looks like. Over here we have title, it's just going to be sales budget. Okay, there are going to be 2 columns over here, one for each of the products. So first product was Gold Star and the second product was Silver Star. Apologies, I should have said as well, this is the 2010 Ordinary Level question, just in case I didn't mention it already, in case you want to have your own papers out and open in front of you while you watch the video. Okay, so Gold Star and Silver Star, I'm just going to draw a line underneath that. There's your 2 columns of information. So what we start with is the sales budget, so we want to forecast how much sales we're going to do, and really they give you the information for a start here. Budgeted sales of Gold Star is 1400 units rather, and Silver Star is 1800 units. So all we do is here we say budgeted sales or expected sales. Either one is fine. Expected sales. And we said 1400. They gave us that number of units. And this was 1800 units. And that's essentially your sales budget in units. That's it. It's a one-liner, really. Now, to convert that into a sales budget in euros, because they said in units and in euros, we need to just get the selling price of each unit of each of these and multiply the number of units by the selling price to get the euro amount of sales. Okay? So the next thing we're going to put underneath here is selling price. Okay, and again they have to provide that in the question. So the selling price for a Gold Star is 80 euros and for a Silver Star is 50 euros. Each one of those you sell this for 80 euros and this you sell for 50 euros. Okay, and then to get your total sales amount in euros, you just multiply, and we call that budgeted sales. And I like to say in euros. Okay, so multiplying the 2 of these out is going to give you, for this one, give me a moment with this, 120 12,000. Okay, and for this one, that should be just 90, shouldn't it? Yeah, 1,000. And it's 90,000 euros. And that's it for a sales budget. Okay, so the next part is a production budget. Part B, they require a production budget. And the production budget, even though they don't say it, is going to all be in units. So it's the amount of units of Gold Star and Silver Star that you forecast that you're going to produce during this year. So again, the title is just production budget. Okay. Production budget, and what you start off with, again, just like the last one, is the expected sales. So you can say budgeted sales or expected sales. I like to say budgeted sales in this one, budgeted sales. And again, you can give the heading Gold Star and Silver Star again if you want. I'm just leaving it since I've already put it up here. I'm just going to continue on with the 2 columns down here as well. So my budgeted sales is 1,400 for the Gold Star and 1,800 for the Silver Star. Is that okay? So you're trying to figure out basically how much of these you should produce during the year. So really, if you're going to sell 1,400, you might say, legitimately, you might say, well, then I want to produce 1,400. But there is one extra factor or 2 extra factors you have to bear in mind when you're thinking about how much you produce. Do you want to produce this exact amount, or do you want to produce maybe a little bit more and have some left over as closing stock, just in case you sell more than you expected to sell? That's one thing to consider. And the second thing to consider is, well, what if you already have a certain stock of Gold Stars that you produced last year, but you didn't sell all of them and you have them waiting in your warehouse? Then do you need to produce all this number for the sales this year if you already have some sitting there in your warehouse? And the answer is no. So we have to take into account those 2 items, which is the opening stock, which is the stock you have left over from last year, and the closing stock that you will have left over at the end of this year, or you forecast or you would like to have left over, because it's nice to have a little room to maneuver, you know, not to try and just produce exactly what you think you're going to sell, because you'll never get that number exactly right anyway. It's too much of a guessing game. So we need a little bit more information here first of all, and it gives us expected stocks of finished goods, and it tells us opening stock and closing stock. So the opening stock is really, should be, rather than just expected, that should be what they know they have. If you're preparing this at the start of the year, then they should know they have that stock, and this closing stock figure really should be what they intend to have as closing stock or left over at the end of the year. Okay, so what we do over here is we say, well, if I'm trying to figure out how much I want to produce 1,400 of these to sell, and then I need to produce some more also if I want to have a closing stock. So for instance, it says closing stock of Gold Star 210 and Silver Star 160. Let me just write them down here, 210, 160. So I need to add the closing stock if I want to have this number to sell and this number left over. Then in total I have to produce 1,610. Isn't that correct? And the same goes for this. If I want 1,800 to sell and 160 left over in my warehouse at the end, I need to produce 1,960. I need to manufacture 1,960 of them. But hold on, I already have some in my warehouse from last year. That's my opening stock. That's what I have at the start of the year, left over from last year, or last year's closing stock, if you like. Now, if I already have these, which are, what are they, 180 and 220, well, then I don't need to produce as much as this in order to be able to have this many sales and this much closing stock. So I can subtract, or say less, the opening stock. And if I subtract that from that, and normally when I'm subtracting, I put a bracket around this to show that it's a minus figure, if you like, in accounting. And I get here 1,430, and here 1,740. Okay. And that's the end of my production budget. It's saying I need to manufacture 1,430 and 1,740 of these in order to sell the amounts and have whatever I want to have left over as well. So I call that budgeted production.